Deep inside a vast green forest, where morning mist danced between tall trees, there stood a small wooden cabin. That's where John lived with his mother, Lizzie, a kind, beautiful woman who always wore a simple top and a pair of jeans. Life there was peaceful. John was a curious, brave boy with messy brown hair and bright eyes full of dreams. Every evening, they sat by the fire, and Lizzie told stories about John's father, a brave hunter who had once gone into a storm and never returned. But one night, everything changed. The silence of the forest broke with the growl of engines. Headlights flashed between the trees. Lizzie looked out the window. Shadows were moving closer. Before she could lock the door, it burst open with a loud bang. 3 masked men stormed in. "Grab the woman from the photo." "Hurry," one shouted. John screamed, "Mom," and tried to fight, but one of the men pushed him to the ground. Within seconds, the kidnappers dragged Lizzie out, threw her into a black jeep, and disappeared into the forest. John lay on the floor, trembling, his eyes full of tears. But inside, something else was burning, determination. Before sunrise, he packed his backpack, grabbed his father's old hunting knife, and unfolded an old map of the forest. He remembered stories of an abandoned mine up north, the perfect place for criminals to hide. He set out at dawn. The forest was cold and silent. Wolves howled in the distance, but John kept walking. He crossed a river using fallen logs, climbed muddy hills, and followed broken tire tracks through the mist. At one point, he found a small fox caught in a trap. He freed it gently, and the fox looked at him for a long moment before running off. "Maybe Dad sent you to help me," John whispered. By noon, he reached the old mine. 2 guards stood by the entrance. John threw a rock into the bushes, distracting them just long enough to sneak inside. The tunnel was dark and smelled of rust and oil. Voices echoed ahead. "Keep the woman here until the boss arrives," one man said. John crept closer and saw his mother, her hands tied, eyes full of fear. When she noticed him, her lips trembled, but he motioned for her to stay quiet. He picked up a metal rod, hit the guard from behind, and grabbed the keys. Just as he freed Lizzie, another man spotted them. "There! The kid!" he yelled. Gunshots echoed through the tunnel as John and Lizzie ran for their lives. "Run, Mom! Run!" he shouted. Lizzie slipped on the rocks, but John caught her hand and pulled her up. They burst out of the mine just as the first rays of sunlight hit the trees. Behind them, the kidnappers chased, but suddenly, the same fox appeared again, darting across the path and startling the men. John and Lizzie escaped into the woods and finally reached their cabin. Both were exhausted and bruised, but safe. Lizzie held her son's face in her hands. "You're my hero, John," she whispered. "Just like your father." John smiled softly. "No, Mom. I just did what he would have done for us." That night, they sat by the fire again. But the story Lizzie told wasn't about heroes from the past anymore. It was about John, the boy who faced fear and darkness, and found his mother through the light of love.